The research pod hit the ground harder than River Chen expected. Her teeth clacked together as the impact jarred through her spine. Around her, the jungle of planet HR7 stretched in every direction. A wall of purple and green vegetation that looked hungry. She pulled herself out of the pod, checking her gear. 1 survival knife. 1 water filter. 7 meal packs. 1 emergency beacon hanging from her belt. Dr. River Chen had volunteered for this assignment 3 weeks ago. The alien research team aboard the Infinite Curiosity needed someone to do a planetary survey. She jumped at the chance. After 2 years of studying samples in a lab, she wanted to see a real alien ecosystem up close. The team leader, an insectoid creature named Moth, had approved her request immediately. Too immediately, she now realized. The pod's door sealed shut behind her with a hiss. River turned to open it again, but the controls were dead. She tapped the panel. Nothing. She hit it harder. Still nothing. A cold feeling settled in her stomach. Probably just a malfunction, she said out loud. Her voice sounded small in the massive jungle. They'll come get me soon. She didn't know that Moth and his team were watching her from orbit right now. She didn't know they had placed bets on how long she would survive. She didn't know this was never meant to be a real survey mission. River pulled out her datapad and tried to call the ship. Static. She tried again. More static. The emergency beacon would work, though. It had to work. She clipped it back to her belt and decided to worry about communication later. First, she needed shelter. The gravity here pulled at her like invisible hands. HR7 had 1.4 times Earth's gravity. Every step took effort. River's legs already ached, and she had only walked 50 meters from the pod. She stopped to catch her breath and really looked at her surroundings for the first time. The jungle was alive in ways Earth's forests never were. Vines moved slowly across tree trunks, searching for something. Flowers opened and closed like breathing lungs. In the distance, something roared. The sound rolled through the trees like thunder, making River's chest vibrate. She found a cluster of rocks near a small stream. Good enough. River spent the next 4 hours building a basic shelter using branches and broad leaves. Her hands blistered. Her back screamed at her. But by the time the planet's sun started setting, she had a roof over her head and a small fire going. The fire had been tricky. The wood here burned different than Earth would. It gave off blue smoke and smelled like copper, but it kept the worst of the cold away. River ate one of her meal packs and drank filtered water from the stream. Then she sat and watched the alien stars come out. On the ship above, Moth clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. The human had survived day 1. Barely. He turned to his assistant, a young researcher named Bright who glowed faintly blue in the dim light of the observation room. She will last perhaps 5 more days, Moth said. Humans are clever with tools, but this planet will kill her. It always kills soft species, Bright didn't respond. She was watching River's vital signs on a screen. The human's heart rate had finally dropped to normal. Her body temperature was stable. Against all odds, she seemed almost comfortable. River woke to the sound of rain hammering her shelter. The blue fire had died during the night. Water dripped through gaps in the leaf roof. She groaned and sat up, every muscle stiff and sore. Day 2 on HR7. She spent the morning improving her shelter and exploring the immediate area. The stream was clean enough for the filter to handle. Several types of fruit grew nearby, but River didn't trust any of them yet. Alien biology could be toxic. She would stick to her meal packs until she had no choice. That afternoon, she found the tracks. They were pressed deep into the mud near the stream. Each print was as long as her forearm, 4 toes tipped with claw marks. River knelt down and studied them. Whatever made these tracks was heavy, very heavy. She followed the trail for 100 meters, her scientific curiosity overriding her common sense. The tracks led to a place where something had killed and eaten a large herbivore. Bones lay scattered in the grass. Most had been cracked open for the marrow. River examined them carefully, taking notes on her datapad. The predator had powerful jaws. It was efficient. It had eaten and left nothing to waste. She heard a sound behind her and froze. A low rumbling so deep she felt it in her bones more than heard it. River turned very slowly, nothing was there. Just trees and shadows. But she knew something was watching her. The back of her neck prickled. Her hands shook as she backed away from the kill site. River made it back to her shelter without incident, but she couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on her. That night she didn't sleep well. Every sound made her jump. Every snap of a branch brought her fully awake. On the ship, the betting pool had shifted. Some researchers thought River would trigger the emergency beacon tomorrow. Others thought she would try to reach the pod and find shelter there. Moth thought she would panic and make a fatal mistake. None of them guessed what would actually happen. Day 3 arrived with heavy fog. River ventured out to refill her water containers. The jungle was quiet. Too quiet. She walked slowly, all her senses alert. Something felt wrong about the silence. Then she saw it, caught in a massive tangle of thorned vines near a cliff edge. A creature struggled weakly. It was maybe half the size of an earth horse covered in silver-gray scales. 6 limbs thrashed uselessly. Blood stained the vines around it. As River approached, it turned its head toward her. Their eyes met. The creature went still. River saw intelligence there, fear, pain. She looked up and saw more tracks, massive tracks. This was a juvenile, which meant the mother was somewhere nearby. The smart thing would be to walk away. The safe thing would be to return to her shelter and pretend she never saw this. River Chen had always been better at being curious than being smart. She pulled out her survival knife and approached the trapped juvenile, talking softly. Somewhere in the fog, something massive moved through the trees, coming closer. River's hands moved carefully through the thorned vines. Each one was as thick as her thumb and covered in barbs that looked like fishhooks. The juvenile creature whimpered, a sound that vibrated through her chest. Blood dripped from dozens of cuts across its scaled body. "Easy now," River whispered. "I'm trying to help." The creature didn't understand her words, but it seemed to understand her tone. It stopped thrashing and watched her with eyes that were too intelligent to belong to a simple animal. River worked slowly, cutting one vine at a time. Her knife was sharp, but the vines were tough. Sap oozed from each cut, sticky and smelling like rotting fruit. 20 minutes passed, then an hour. River's arms burned from holding them up. Sweat ran down her face despite the cool fog. The juvenile stayed remarkably still, only flinching when she had to pull barbs from its flesh. She was halfway through freeing its back left leg when she felt the vibration. It came up through the ground, rhythmic and heavy. Footsteps, big ones. River looked up. Through the fog, a shape emerged. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of the juvenile, 6-limbed like its offspring but covered in heavier scales that looked like armor, silver-gray coloring that made it almost invisible in the fog. When it opened its mouth, River saw teeth as long as her fingers. This was the mother. This was the apex predator of HR-7. This was how River Chen was going to die. The creature approached slowly, its eyes fixed on River. She didn't run. Running would trigger a chase response. Instead, she kept working on the vines, her hands shaking so hard she nearly dropped her knife. "I'm helping," she said quietly. "See? I'm helping your baby." The mother creature stopped 10 meters away. It lowered its massive head and rumbled, a sound so deep River's ribcage vibrated. The juvenile answered with a higher-pitched version of the same sound. Communication. They were communicating. River cut through another vine. 2 more legs were free now. The juvenile could almost pull itself loose, but the vines around its neck and one front leg held it pinned. Those were the dangerous ones. If River cut wrong, the thorns could slice into major blood vessels. The mother watched every movement. River talked constantly, her voice steady even though her heart hammered. She explained what she was doing, even knowing the creature couldn't understand the words. Maybe tone was enough. Maybe intention was universal. "Almost there. Just need to get this one around your neck. Hold still." She positioned her knife carefully and cut. The vine split. The juvenile lurched forward. River grabbed it, holding it steady so it wouldn't hurt itself. The last vine snapped under the creature's weight. It was free. River stepped back quickly, giving it space. The juvenile stumbled, weak from blood loss and exhaustion. It took 3 shaky steps toward its mother, then stopped. It turned back to look at River. Time seemed to freeze. The mother creature watched. The juvenile watched. River stood perfectly still, barely breathing. She had just helped this creature. She had done a good thing. But predators didn't care about good intentions. Predators cared about threats and food. The juvenile made a decision. Instead of going to its mother, it limped back to River. It pressed its scaled head against her leg, nearly knocking her over. The rumbling sound it made was different now. Softer. River's hand moved without conscious thought, touching the creature's head. The scales were warm and surprisingly smooth. "You're welcome," she whispered. The mother creature made a sound that might have been approval or might have been a warning. Then it turned and walked back into the fog. The juvenile didn't follow. It stayed pressed against River's leg, looking up at her with those intelligent eyes. "Oh no," River said. "You need to go with your mom." "Go on?" The juvenile didn't move. River tried to push it gently toward where its mother had disappeared. It dug its claws into the ground and refused to budge. In the distance, the mother called. The juvenile answered, but still didn't leave River's side. From orbit, the research team watched in stunned silence. Moth's mandibles clacked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. Bright leaned closer to her screen, her glow brightening with excitement. "Impossible," Moth said. "The raven wolf species does not bond with other creatures. They are pure predators. This human has contaminated the specimen somehow." "Or," Bright said softly, "we don't understand raven wolves as well as we thought." River gave up trying to make the juvenile leave. She needed to treat its wounds before they got infected. She walked slowly back toward her shelter. The juvenile followed, limping but determined. River decided to call it Pip, after the small wounds covering its body. At her shelter, River used water and strips torn from her spare shirt to clean Pip's cuts. The creature sat patiently through the whole process. River knew she should be terrified. This thing's mother could return at any moment. But Pip seemed so young, so trusting. Her xenobiologist training had covered many scenarios, but apex predator adoption wasn't one of them. She gave Pip some of her food, not knowing if it could eat human rations. Pip sniffed the meal pack and made a disgusted sound. River almost laughed. Picky eater. She went to the stream and caught a fish-like creature. Pip devoured it immediately. Night fell. River expected Pip to leave, but the juvenile curled up near her shelter, positioning itself between River and the jungle. Protecting her, River lay awake for hours, listening to Pip's breathing and wondering what she had gotten herself into. When dawn came, River found something waiting outside her shelter. A dead animal roughly the size of a large dog. It had been cleanly killed and left just beyond her fire pit. Pip sat nearby, tail swishing back and forth across the ground. In the distance, on a ridge overlooking River's camp, a silver-gray shape watched. The mother. The one River now thought of as Ghost, because of how she moved through the fog. Ghost had brought food. She had accepted River's help, or at least tolerated it. River stared at the offering, her mind racing through the implications. She was being treated like pack, like family. On a planet where she was supposed to die alone, she had somehow been adopted by the most dangerous predators in the ecosystem. She looked up at Ghost on the ridge. The massive raven wolf tilted her head, watching. River bowed slightly, hoping it was the right gesture. Ghost rumbled, then disappeared into the trees. Pip bounded over to the dead animal and dragged it toward River expectantly. River realized she was supposed to eat it, or at least take first choice of it. Pack hierarchy. She was being tested. River pulled out her knife and cut a portion of meat. She held it over her fire until it cooked through, then ate it. It tasted strange but not bad. Gamey. Pip watched with apparent approval, then tore into the rest. On the ship, the betting pool had dissolved into chaos. Half the researchers wanted to extract River immediately. The other half wanted to see what happened next. Moth had gone silent, staring at the screens with an expression his species used for deep confusion. Bright made a note in her personal log. Day 4. Human subject has integrated into a raven wolf pack structure. All previous data on both species requires revision. This changes everything we thought we knew about cross-species social bonding. Request permission to extend observation period. River sat by her fire, watching Pip eat. She pulled out her datapad and started recording observations. This was unprecedented. This was important. Whatever happened next, she needed to document it all. Ghost howled in the distance. Pip answered, and River, feeling slightly ridiculous, tried to mimic the sound. It came out all wrong, but Pip's tail wagged harder. Close enough. 3 weeks had passed since River freed Pip from the vines. Her shelter had expanded into a small camp with a proper roof, storage area, and even a crude smoke rack for preserving meat. Pip had grown noticeably larger, filling out from proper feeding and the healing of his wounds. But the biggest change was that River was no longer alone. Ghost's pack had revealed itself gradually. First came Shadow, a lean male who watched from the trees for days before approaching. Then Dawn and Dusk, 2 females who hunted together with frightening efficiency. Others followed. River counted 7 adults and 3 juveniles, including Pip. They didn't live in her camp, but they visited daily. They brought food. They slept nearby. They had accepted her. River learned their language through careful observation. Raven wolves communicated with low rumbles she felt more than heard, combined with body positions and tail movements. She recorded everything on her datapad, building what might be the galaxy's first Raven wolf dictionary. When Ghost tilted her head left and rumbled, it meant danger nearby. When Pip's tail swept in wide arcs, he was happy. When Shadow's scales rippled along his spine, he was about to hunt. The pack had a hierarchy. Ghost was alpha, with Shadow as her second. Dawn and Dusk ranked below him. The other adults fell into a middle tier, and the juveniles were protected by everyone. River's position had confused her at first, but she thought she understood it now. She ranked somewhere between the middle adults and Shadow, high enough to eat before the juveniles, low enough that she deferred to Ghost in all things. It worked because River made herself useful. The first time she showed the pack how to make a spear, Shadow had watched with what might have been skepticism. But when River used the spear to bring down a fast-moving prey animal the raven wolves had chased for hours, skepticism turned to interest. She taught them to make simple tools. Pointed sticks for digging roots, sharp rocks for cutting tough hides. The raven wolves had powerful claws and teeth, but they learned that tools extended their reach and saved energy. Dawn became particularly good at using a digging stick to extract a type of grub the pack enjoyed. The fire had been trickier. Raven wolves were naturally afraid of it. River started small, keeping the flames low and controlled. She showed them how fire scared away smaller predators and insects, how it could cook meat to make it safer. Pip was the first to lose his fear, sitting close to the flames on cold nights. The others followed his lead slowly. Then River introduced planning. Raven wolves were ambush hunters by nature, using strength and surprise. River showed them persistence hunting, the technique that made humans apex predators on Earth. Track prey over distance. Push it until it tires, strike when it can't run anymore. The first time they tried it, the pack was confused. Why chase when you could ambush? But River pointed out that ambush didn't always work. Sometimes prey spotted them. Sometimes the terrain was wrong. Persistence hunting gave them options. They tracked a large herbivore for 6 hours. The raven wolves wanted to stop after 2, but River kept going. Her human endurance surprised them. She could walk for hours without tiring the way they did. Finally, the prey animal collapsed from exhaustion. Shadow made the kill easily. After that, the pack looked at River differently. She wasn't just a strange, soft creature Ghost tolerated. She was a hunter. She had skills they lacked. The barrier between pet and pack member dissolved completely. River's body was changing too. The heavy gravity had forced her muscles to adapt. She was stronger now, able to keep pace with the raven wolves for longer stretches. Her senses had sharpened. She could smell rain coming hours before the first drops fell. She could hear prey moving through the underbrush from impressive distances. Whether it was adaptation or something in the planet's environment affecting her, she didn't know. Her emergency beacon sat unused in her shelter. She had tried it once in the second week. Nothing but static. Either it was broken or the ship wasn't responding. River had stopped caring which. She was learning more here than she ever could on the research vessel. This was real xenobiology. This was the work she had dreamed of doing. On the ship, divisions had formed among the research team. Moth insisted River was suffering from some form of psychological break. She has gone native, he said repeatedly. We must extract her for her own safety. Bright disagreed. She's conducting the most important field research in galactic history. Every day she sends us data that contradicts everything we thought we knew about predator behavior and human psychology. We need to let her continue. Other researchers took sides. Meetings turned into arguments. The betting pool was forgotten. What started as a cruel experiment had become something unprecedented, and no one knew how to handle it. River knew nothing about the arguments. She was busy learning to hunt with the pack. Her spear had proven useful, but Ghost wanted her closer to the action. River found herself running alongside Dawn and Dusk, herding prey toward Shadow's ambush position. It was terrifying and exhilarating. One afternoon, River discovered something that changed her understanding of the pack forever. She had been exploring a cave system with Pip when she found marks on the walls. Not random scratches. Deliberate patterns, pictures, a raven wolf hunting, a pack surrounding prey. The patterns were old, worn by time. Raven wolves made art. They recorded their history. They were more than intelligent predators. They were people, different from humans operating on different principles, but people nonetheless. River sat in that cave for hours, tracing the pictures with her fingers. Pip lay beside her, adding his own claw marks to a clear section of wall. When River pulled out her datapad to draw, Pip watched with intense interest. She showed him the simple picture she had made of him. His tail wagged. That evening, River brought paints back to camp. She had made them from crushed berries and clay. She painted on a flat rock near her shelter, simple images of the pack. Ghost approached and watched. Then carefully, Ghost dipped her claw in the paint and added a mark of her own. River felt tears in her eyes. This was first contact. Real first contact. Not humans meeting aliens, but two intelligent species learning to communicate through art and cooperation. She painted every day after that. The pack added their own marks. A shared gallery grew on the rocks around camp. River documented it all, knowing this evidence would rewrite xenobiology textbooks. But a new problem was emerging. River had noticed fresh tracks around the territory borders. Larger tracks, more of them. Another pack was moving into the area. Ghost's behavior changed. She patrolled more. She left scent marks constantly. Shadow grew aggressive, snapping at the younger males. River didn't understand the full significance until Dawn returned to camp with injuries. Deep claw marks across her shoulder. She had been in a fight with scouts from the other pack. Ghost assembled the pack that night. River sat among them, trying to follow the complex series of rumbles and body language. She caught enough to understand. The other pack was larger, more aggressive. They wanted Ghost's territory. There would be a fight. Pip pressed against River's side, seeking comfort. River put her arm around him and looked at Ghost. The alpha female met her eyes. River saw something there that chilled her. Ghost was afraid. Not for herself, but for her pack. For Pip. For River. This was more than a territorial dispute. This was a threat to everything River had built here. She was pack now, which meant when the fight came, she would have to fight too, not as a researcher documenting behavior, as a member defending her family. River stood up. All eyes turned to her. She picked up her spear and drove it into the ground. Then she started drawing in the dirt, using the basic visual language she had developed with the pack. She drew battle plans, ambush points, defensive positions, the tactics that made humans successful predators. Ghost watched. Shadow watched. The whole pack watched as River laid out a strategy that combined human planning with Ravenwolf strengths. When she finished, Ghost rumbled her approval. The pack would fight, but they would fight smart. The rival pack attacked at dawn, just as River predicted they would. She had been awake for hours, positioned in a tree overlooking the camp with her spear and 3 backup weapons she had crafted. Below, the pack waited in carefully planned positions. This was nothing like normal Ravenwolf combat. The enemy alpha was massive, even bigger than Ghost. River had nicknamed him Scar because of the jagged marks across his face. His pack numbered at least 12 adults, nearly double Ghost's strength. In a straight fight, Ghost's pack would lose. River had made that clear in her planning sessions, but they weren't going to have a straight fight. Scar's pack charged into the camp expecting to find Ghost's pack sleeping or unprepared. Instead, they found an empty camp. The confusion lasted only seconds before Ghost's ambush sprang. Dawn and dusk struck from the left, targeting the rear members of Scar's pack. Shadow hit from the right with 2 other males. The enemy pack found themselves surrounded and divided. River watched from her tree, tracking movements and calling out warnings with the low whistles the pack had learned to recognize. 2 enemies broke away from the main fight, trying to flank Shadow's position. River whistled twice. Shadow heard and adjusted, meeting them head-on. The fighting was brutal. Ravenwolves didn't hold back. Claws raked across scales. Teeth found throats. Blood stained the ground. River's stomach churned, but she forced herself to keep watching, keep directing. This was what pack meant. Protecting each other no matter the cost. Scar broke through the initial ambush line, heading straight for Ghost. The 2 alphas collided with a sound like thunder. They were evenly matched in size, but Scar was fresh while Ghost had been defending her territory for weeks. River saw Ghost falter. She didn't think. She just moved. River dropped from the tree, landing hard enough that her ankles screamed in protest. She ran toward the fighting alphas, spear raised. Every raven wolf in both packs turned to watch. A soft creature, barely a fraction of their size, charging toward two apex predators in full battle rage. River didn't try to fight Scar directly. That would be suicide. Instead, she went low, jabbing her spear at his back legs. The sharpened point found the soft tissue behind his knee joint. Scar roared and stumbled. Ghost used the distraction to clamp her jaws around his neck. But Scar was stronger than Ghost anticipated. He twisted, throwing her off. She hit the ground hard. Scar turned toward River, his eyes promising death. River stood her ground, spear ready, knowing it would do nothing against a direct charge. Pip appeared from nowhere, slamming into Scar's side. The juvenile was half Scar's size but hit with desperate fury. Scar barely seemed to notice, swatting Pip away with one massive paw. Pip flew through the air and crashed into a tree. He didn't get up. River heard herself screaming. She threw her spear with all her strength. It caught Scar in the shoulder, not deep enough to seriously wound, but enough to hurt, enough to make him angry. Scar charged. River tried to dodge, but the heavy gravity made her too slow. She felt claws slash across her back, felt herself falling. The ground rushed up to meet her. Pain exploded along her spine. Her vision went white. Through the haze, she heard Ghost's roar. It was like nothing River had experienced before. Pure rage, pure protection. The sound of a mother defending her child. Ghost hit Scar with everything she had. The fight became vicious, desperate. Shadow joined in. Then Dawn. Then the whole pack converged on Scar. Faced with united fury, Scar's pack broke. They fled into the jungle, leaving their alpha to fight alone. Scar realized his mistake too late. He tried to retreat, but Ghost's jaws were locked on his throat. Shadow clamped onto his back leg. They dragged him down. Scar went still. The fight was over. Ghost released him and he limped away quickly, bloodied and beaten. He would live, but he would never challenge this territory again. River lay on the ground, unable to move. Her back was on fire. She could feel blood soaking through her clothes. She tried to speak but only managed a wheeze. Through blurring vision, she saw Pip stumbling toward her. He was limping badly but alive. Thank God he was alive. Ghost appeared above River, blocking out the sun. Her massive head lowered until her snout nearly touched River's face. The rumble she made was soft, concerned. River tried to smile. "We won," she whispered. "Pack safe." Then everything went black. River woke up in her shelter. It took several seconds to remember where she was and what had happened. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain lanced through her back, stealing her breath. Hands shaking, she felt along her spine. The wounds had been cleaned. Something sticky covered them. She brought her fingers to her nose and sniffed. Plant sap. The same stuff Ghost used on injured pack members. Pip lay curled against her side, his warmth keeping her comfortable. When he noticed she was awake, he made a happy chirping sound and nuzzled her face. His own injuries had been treated. A limp would probably stay with him, but he would recover. Ghost entered the shelter, moving carefully to avoid knocking anything over with her bulk. She carried a dead animal in her jaws and dropped it near River. Food. River tried to thank her, but Ghost was already moving closer, inspecting River's wounds with gentle nudges. The alpha female settled down on River's other side, providing warmth and protection. This was unprecedented behavior. Ghost treating River not just as pack, but as one of her own offspring. River reached out with trembling fingers and touched Ghost's scales. The raven wolf rumbled, a sound of contentment and relief. The rest of the pack visited throughout the day. Dawn brought water. Shadow left fresh kills. Even the juveniles came, pressing close to River in a pile of warm bodies. They had won the battle, but they had nearly lost a pack member. That mattered to them. River spent 3 days barely able to move. The pack hunted for her, brought her water, kept her warm at night. Pip refused to leave her side except to relieve himself. River had time to think about what had happened. She had fought in a pack battle. She had risked her life to save Ghost. She had become something she never expected. Not human, not Ravenwolf, something in between. Her datapad still worked. River recorded everything, her voice weak but determined. This would change how the galaxy viewed both humans and predator species. She had proof that intelligence existed in forms the Galactic Council never recognized. She had proof that bonds could form across species barriers that seemed impossible. On the 4th day, River managed to stand. Her back still hurt, but she could walk. The pack celebrated with a hunt, and for the first time, River rode on Ghost's back. The alpha female moved carefully, making sure River didn't fall. They brought down a large prey animal together and the whole pack feasted. That night, sitting by her fire with Pip's head in her lap and Ghost resting nearby, River finally checked her emergency beacon. Still nothing but static. She should have been upset. She should have been desperate to contact the ship. Instead, she felt something else entirely. Relief. She wasn't ready to leave. Maybe she would never be ready to leave. This was her pack now. This was her family. Ghost had protected her like a daughter. Pip loved her like a sibling. The pack had accepted her fully, no reservations. River looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, humans and aliens were going about their lives, probably assuming she was dead. Let them assume. She had work to do here. A language to fully document, a culture to understand, a family to protect. She fell asleep that night surrounded by warm bodies and the sound of contented rumbling. Her wounds would heal. The pack was safe. Everything else could wait. On the ship, Bright had been watching the battle in horror. She filed an emergency report directly to the Galactic Council, bypassing Moth entirely. River Chen had been left on a death world as an experiment. She had not only survived, but had integrated into an apex predator pack structure. She had fought in a territorial war. She had nearly died protecting creatures the galaxy considered mindless killing machines. The report included all of River's research data, the proof of Ravenwolf intelligence, the evidence of cross-species bonding, the documentation of human adaptability in extreme conditions. The Galactic Council's response came within hours. Extract River Chen immediately. Shut down the experiment. Investigate everyone involved. This had gone too far. River's wounds healed over the following weeks, leaving thick scars across her back that would stay with her forever. She wore them with strange pride. Battle scars. Proof she had fought for her pack and survived. The pack treated her differently now. Not as a curiosity or even just a member, but as a proven warrior. Shadow brought her first choice of kills. Dawn and Dusk invited her on their hunts. Even the juveniles looked up to her. The camp expanded. River built better shelters using techniques she had learned growing up on a farming colony. She showed the pack how to store food for lean times, how to dig proper waste pits away from sleeping areas, how to create simple defenses around the territory. The Ravenwolves contributed their own knowledge. They showed her which plants had medicinal properties, how to read weather patterns and animal behavior, how to move silently through dense jungle. A true culture emerged. Not human, not Ravenwolf, something entirely new. River painted on the rocks daily, and now the whole pack contributed. They created a visual history of their lives together. The rescue of Pip, the battle with Scar's pack, successful hunts, even simple moments of rest and play. River's body continued adapting to the planet. She was lean and muscular now, stronger than she had ever been on Earth. Her senses had sharpened to the point where she could smell prey from hundreds of meters away. She moved through the jungle with confidence, reading signs in broken branches and disturbed earth. The planet that should have killed her had instead made her better. But something else was happening. Something River noticed but didn't understand at first. Her body felt different. She was nauseous in the mornings. Certain smells that never bothered her now made her sick. She was tired more often. It took 2 weeks before she realized the truth. River checked her medical implant, the one that was supposed to prevent pregnancy for 5 years. It was still working, still releasing hormones into her bloodstream, and yet her body was telling her something impossible. She ran the diagnostic 3 times. Each time the result was the same: she was pregnant. 3 months along, based on the physical signs. River sat in her shelter staring at the diagnostic results on her data pad. This was impossible. The implant should have prevented this, unless the planet's environment had affected her biology in ways she didn't understand. The heavy gravity, the alien plant compound she had been exposed to, something had changed her body chemistry enough to override the implant. She was going to have a baby, alone on a death world, with no medical facilities, no doctors, no hospitals, just her, a pack of apex predators and whatever knowledge she could remember from her basic medical training. River should have panicked. She should have immediately tried to contact the ship, to get extracted. Instead, she felt a strange calm settle over her. She looked at Pip, who was dozing near the fire, at Ghost, who was grooming one of the other juveniles. This was her pack. If she was going to have a child, she would have it here, with her family. The decision made, River began preparing. She gathered the softest material she could find for bedding. She studied every medical file on her datapad, memorizing everything about human pregnancy and birth. She tested local plants for their properties, looking for anything that might help with pain or infection. The pack noticed her changed behavior and responded with increased protection. Ghost stayed closer. Shadow checked the territory borders constantly. Dawn and dusk brought her the best cuts of meat. Bright's message reached River on a quiet evening. River had been checking her datapad out of habit, when suddenly it connected to the ship's network. Text appeared on the screen. River, this is Bright from the research team. The Galactic Council knows everything. They are ordering your immediate extraction. You have 30 days before they arrive. I am sorry. I tried to stop them. They say you cannot make rational decisions anymore. They say you need rescue. Please respond if you can. Please let me know you are okay. River read the message 3 times. 30 days. They were coming to take her away. Away from Ghost, away from Pip. Away from the pack that had become her family. Away from the most important research she had ever conducted. She typed a response slowly. I am okay. Better than okay. I do not need rescue. I need more time. Please tell them I choose to stay. The response came quickly. They will not accept that. You are considered compromised. But I will tell them. Document everything you can. Your research is changing everything we thought we knew. You are making history. River closed the datapad and looked around her camp. This was her home now. She had to make the council understand that. But how do you explain to beings who never left their ships that she had found something more valuable than safety? How do you make them understand that family was not always about species? She spent the next week preparing her case. River organized all her research data, all the video recordings, all the linguistic analysis. She documented the pack's intelligence, their art, their complex social structures. She recorded their medical knowledge, their understanding of ecology, their ability to plan and strategize. This was not a human living with animals. This was first contact between 2 intelligent species. But she also had to think about her child. River examined herself carefully. The pregnancy was progressing normally. The baby was healthy based on everything she could measure with her limited equipment. But birth would be dangerous without proper medical care. Could she really risk her child's life to stay with the pack? Ghost seemed to sense River's distress. The alpha female stayed close, offering comfort in the way raven wolves did. Gentle rumbles, warm presence. River found herself crying into Ghost's scales one night, trying to explain in their shared language that she might have to leave. Ghost pressed her massive head against River's chest, rumbling softly. Pack stayed together. That was the rule. Pip had grown nearly to adult size now. His limp had healed to barely noticeable. He had become River's constant companion, sleeping across the entrance to her shelter every night. When River tried to explain she might leave, Pip's distress was obvious. He pressed against her, whimpering. River hugged him, her heart breaking. The pack had saved her life. They had accepted her. They had fought beside her. And now she might have to abandon them because some council of aliens, who had never set foot on this planet, decided she needed rescuing from the best thing that ever happened to her. River made her decision on day 20. She would stay. Even if the council forced her onto a ship, she would find a way back. This was her home. Ghost and Pip and the whole pack were her family. The child growing inside her would be raised here, learning 2 languages belonging to 2 species. She sent a long message to Bright, explaining everything. Her pregnancy, her choice to stay, her arguments for why this was not mental illness but the most rational decision she had ever made. She included all her research data, everything she had learned about raven wolves. She argued that forced extraction would be kidnapping, not rescue. I am not a prisoner, she wrote. I am a researcher conducting the most important fieldwork in galactic history. I am a pack member protecting my family. I am a human being making an informed choice about my own life. Tell the council they can offer me support and supplies or they can leave me alone. But they cannot force me to abandon my pack. The response took 3 days. When it came, it was not from Bright. It was from the Galactic Council itself. They would arrive in 1 week. They would discuss River's situation in person. They would make a final determination about her extraction. River read between the lines. They were coming to take her whether she agreed or not. She had 1 week to prepare, 1 week to figure out how to make them understand. 1 week to protect her pack from the interference of well-meaning aliens who could not comprehend what she had built here. She gathered the pack and explained as best she could. Strangers were coming. They wanted to take River away. The pack's reaction was immediate and clear. They would not allow it. Ghost's rumble shook the ground. Shadow bared his teeth. Dawn and Dusk took positions on either side of River, protective and fierce. River realized with dawning horror that she had created a potential disaster. If the Council tried to force extraction, the pack would defend her. People could die. Raven wolves could die. Everything she had built could be destroyed in violence and misunderstanding. She had to find another way. River spent the remaining days preparing not for conflict but for diplomacy. She created visual aids showing the pack's intelligence. She practiced speeches in standard galactic language. She prepared demonstrations of their shared culture. If she could make the Council see what she saw, maybe they would understand. On the final night before the Council's arrival, River sat with Ghost and Pip under the stars. Her hand rested on her small but growing belly. Whatever happened tomorrow would change everything. She just had to make sure it changed in the right direction. "Trust me," she whispered to her pack. "I will not let them separate us." "I promise," Ghost rumbled softly. Pip pressed his head against her shoulder. The pack slept around them, trusting River to protect them just as they had protected her. River did not sleep. She watched the stars and prepared for the most important negotiation of her life. The shuttle landed in the clearing River had marked, far enough from camp to not threaten the pack, but close enough that she could walk there. Ghost wanted to come with her, but River convinced the Alpha to wait. First contact needed to be gentle, careful. A pack of raven wolves greeting the delegation would not help her case. River walked alone to the landing site, though she knew Pip followed at a distance despite her instructions. The juvenile had become impossibly stubborn about letting her out of his sight. She wore her cleanest clothes, which was not saying much after months in the jungle. Her hair was tied back with vine cord. The scars on her back pulled when she moved, but she stood straight and walked confidently. The shuttle door opened. Bright emerged first, her bioluminescent body pulsing with what River had learned to recognize as excitement. Behind her came 3 council members. One was Moth, looking as coldly analytical as ever. The others were species River did not recognize. A tall being covered in feathers, a small crystalline creature that refracted light, and then River saw the human. A woman in her 50s wearing the uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. River felt something twist in her chest. Another human. She had not seen another human in 4 months. It felt like looking at a stranger and a mirror at the same time. "Dr. River Chen," the human woman said. Her voice was formal but not unkind. "I am Ambassador Lee. I am here representing Earth's interests. Are you well?" River almost laughed. "I am alive and healthy. More than anyone expected." Moth stepped forward, his mandibles clicking. "You appear functional, but your judgment is in question. This environment is not suitable for human habitation. We are here to bring you to safety." "I am safe," River said firmly. "Safer than I would be on your ship, actually. I have a pack that protects me. I have shelter, food, water. I have purpose." The feathered being spoke, their voice musical. "We have reviewed your research data. It is remarkable, but you cannot seriously propose living permanently among apex predators." "Why not?" River challenged. "What makes it impossible? I have lived here for 4 months. I have fought alongside them. I have earned my place."
"They are not animals."
"They are people. Different than you, different than me, but people with intelligence and culture." "They are predators," Moth said flatly. "So are humans," River shot back. "We are persistence hunters. We are omnivores. Half the galaxy is terrified of humans because of our predator traits, but you still accepted us into the Council." Ambassador Lee held up a hand. "River, no one is denying your research is groundbreaking, but there are concerns beyond science. You are pregnant. You need medical care." River had known this would come up. "I have medical knowledge." "The pack has medicinal plants. Women gave birth without hospitals for thousands of years on Earth, and many died," Lee said gently, "along with their babies. Why risk that when we can offer you safety?" "Because this is my home," River said, and her voice cracked despite her determination to stay strong. "These are my people. Ghost saved my life. Pip is like my brother. The pack accepts me. They fought for me. How can I abandon them?" Bright moved closer, her glow soft. No one wants you to abandon them, but you must think of your child. What life can you offer here? A life surrounded by family, River said. A life learning two cultures. A life that proves species barriers do not matter. My child will be the first human raised with full understanding of another intelligent species. That matters. The crystalline being chimed, sounds that translated through River's earpiece. Your passion is evident, but the Council's concern is your safety and ability to make rational decisions. 4 months of isolation could affect human psychology. I am not isolated, River insisted. I am part of a community. Come see, meet my pack. Let them show you what I have been documenting. Moth's mandibles clicked rapidly. Absolutely not. The risk is too high. The risk of what? River demanded. That you will see I am right? That you will have to admit you left me here to die and I survived by becoming something you did not think possible? Silence fell. Ambassador Lee looked at River for a long moment. You know about the experiment? Bright told me, River said. I know Moth never intended for me to survive. I know this was meant to prove humans are weak. Instead, I proved we are adaptable. We are capable of empathy across species lines. We can become part of ecosystems rather than just studying them. Moth began to speak, but Lee cut him off. River is right. She deserves the truth and the choice. She is not a test subject. She is a human being with rights. Thank you, River said quietly. Lee continued. But River, rights include the right to make informed decisions. You are pregnant on a death world with no medical facilities. Your child deserves the best chance at life. Come back with us. Give birth in safety, then decide if you want to return. River felt tears threatening. It was a reasonable offer, a fair compromise, but something deep in her chest knew that if she left now, the Council would never let her return. They would find reasons, medical concerns, regulations. She would lose her pack forever. A sound made everyone turn. Pip emerged from the jungle limping toward River. He was trying to hide it, but his old injury always showed when he was nervous. He positioned himself between River and the delegation, protective but not aggressive. This is Pip, River said softly. I saved him from thorned vines. He imprinted on me. He has protected me ever since. He is my family. Ambassador Lee stared at the massive raven wolf. Her hand moved toward her weapon, then stopped. Pip was not attacking. He was just standing close to River, his tail swishing nervously. Bright approached slowly, hands visible and empty. May I meet him? River nodded. She placed her hand on Pip's shoulder and made the rumbling sound that meant, friend. Pip tilted his head, studying Bright. The bioluminescent researcher reached out carefully. Pip sniffed her hand, then allowed her to touch his scales. Remarkable, Bright breathed. He trusts you completely. He is my brother, River said simply. How can I leave him? Ambassador Lee watched the interaction, her expression thoughtful. Show us the camp. Show us how you live. We will observe and then make our decision. River led them through the jungle, Pip walking beside her. The delegation followed, their guards nervous but holding fire. When they reached the camp, Ghost was waiting with the pack. 7 adults and 3 juveniles, all positioned protectively but not aggressively. River walked directly to Ghost and placed her hand on the alpha's head. Ghost rumbled and touched her nose to River's belly, gentle and careful. The pack gathered around River, including her in their protective circle. This is Ghost, River said. The alpha. She treats me as her own offspring. When I was wounded in battle, she personally tended my injuries. She showed them the painted rocks, explaining the visual language she and the pack had developed. She demonstrated the tools they used, the strategies they employed in hunting. She presented her linguistic analysis, her behavioral observations, her documentation of Ravenwolf intelligence. Moth remained skeptical, but the other council members were clearly affected. They saw not a human who had gone native, but a researcher who had achieved something unprecedented. A bridge between species. Then River felt it. A sudden sharp pain in her abdomen. She gasped and doubled over. Ghost was at her side immediately, supporting her. The pain passed quickly, but River knew what it meant. Early labor. The stress of the day had triggered it. The baby, River whispered. It is coming. Ambassador Lee moved fast. We need to get you to the shuttle. We have medical facilities there. But Ghost rumbled a warning. The pack closed ranks around River. They did not understand the words, but they understood River was in distress and these strangers wanted to take her away. "Wait," River said through gritted teeth. "They are trying to protect me. If you push this, someone will get hurt. You need medical help," Lee insisted. "I need you to let my pack help me," River said. She looked at Ghost and made the sounds that meant safe place. Ghost understood. The Alpha picked River up gently in her massive jaws, carrying her like a juvenile, and moved toward the shelter. Bright stepped forward. "I have medical training. Let me help. The rest of you stay back. Do not threaten them." The next hours passed in a blur of pain and fear. River labored in her shelter with Ghost beside her and Bright assisting. The pack formed a protective circle outside, keeping watch. Ambassador Lee and the others waited in tense silence. River had been preparing for this, but preparation did not make it easy. Pain came in waves. Bright coached her through breathing, through pushing, through moments when River thought she could not continue. Ghost rumbled constantly, a steady vibration that somehow helped River focus. When the baby finally came, crying and healthy, River sobbed with relief. Ghost nuzzled the infant gently, rumbling in a tone River had never heard before. Approval. Welcome. This was Pack. Bright wrapped the baby in clean cloth and placed her in River's arms. A girl, healthy, strong lungs. River looked down at her daughter. She was perfect. Tiny and pink and absolutely perfect. "Hope," River whispered. "Her name is Hope." Ghost rumbled agreement. Pip poked his head into the shelter, curious about the noise. When he saw the baby, his tail began wagging so hard his whole body shook. Ambassador Lee entered carefully. She looked at River, exhausted but glowing. At the baby. At Ghost, who was clearly as invested in the infant's well-being as any grandmother. At the pack surrounding the shelter, protective and proud. "This changes things," Lee said quietly. "This changes everything," River corrected. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. The images from HR-7 had spread through the galaxy. A human living with apex predators. A human giving birth surrounded by creatures that should have killed her. A baby welcomed into an alien pack as one of their own. The vote was close, but ultimately the council ruled in River's favor. She could stay on HR-7, but with conditions. Regular supply drops, medical checkups every 3 months, communication equipment that actually worked, and an open invitation to leave whenever she chose. Moth filed a formal objection but did not push further. The evidence was undeniable. River Chen had not gone native. She had evolved. She had become something new. A bridge between species. A proof that intelligence came in many forms and family was a choice, not just biology. River stayed in her shelter for the next week, recovering and bonding with Hope. The pack brought gifts. Shadow left a soft pelt for the baby. Dawn and Dusk wove a basket from flexible vines. Even the other juveniles brought offerings. Ghost barely left River's side. The alpha female treated Hope with incredible gentleness, rumbling lullabies that made the baby stop crying. Pip became Hope's devoted guardian, sleeping across the shelter entrance and growling at anything that came too close. When the council delegation left, Bright stayed behind for an extra day. She helped River set up the new communication equipment and taught her how to use the medical scanner for Hope's checkups. "You did something amazing," Bright said. "You proved that we are not as different as we think. That family transcends biology. That home is where you are understood." "Thank you," River said, "for believing in me, for helping me." "Thank you," Bright replied, "for showing us what is possible." 6 months later, River sat outside her expanded shelter watching Hope play. The baby could not walk yet, but she crawled everywhere with Pip following protectively. Hope had grown up surrounded by rumbles and growls. She responded to Ravenwolf communication as naturally as human speech. Ghost dozed nearby, content. Shadow was teaching the juveniles to hunt. Dawn and Dusk returned with fresh kills. The pack had grown to include several new members attracted by the strange interspecies colony that broke every rule. Other researchers visited regularly now, not to study River like a specimen, but to learn from her, to understand how she had bridged the gap between species. Some stayed, building their own shelters, learning to live alongside the pack. HR-7 was no longer a death world. It was home. The first true interspecies colony, a place where humans and raven wolves built a culture together, learning from each other, protecting each other, loving each other. River looked up at the stars where the Galactic Council deliberated and debated. They would figure out what this meant eventually. They would write new laws, create new categories, recognize new forms of intelligence, but River did not need them to tell her what she already knew. She was exactly where she belonged, with her pack, with her family home,